Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday Morning Motivation on this beautiful, at least rainy day here in Shanghai. Good morning, and I hope you all had a great start in the new year of the tiger. As we always like to say, thank you for not making excuses. So stop making excuses is our motto of this community. For all of our newcomers here, I think most of you are already in our WeChat group. We have 8 WeChat groups nowadays. One you can see here, which is fully Chinese speaking, and the other one, but the QR code doesn't work anymore, is for the English speaking group chat, or you can just add me on WeChat if you want to join. I'm very excited to have Rae here as our speaker today. The topic is accepting yourself. And I can tell you this, a few months ago, it was actually summer, I think it's half a year now, I had the chance to meet Rae, and she was speaking at an event. And I'm not kidding, I had tears in my eyes listening to her story, listening to her presentation. And I thought like, wow, there's so much in life I still don't know. So I thought, Rae, please, you have to come and speak with us. And thank goodness she's on vacation right now, so she could be here with us today. Now, before I hand it over to Rae, for everybody who's new to Monday Morning Motivation, why did I found MMM more than 2.5 years ago? Because I just want you guys to have a positive start in a new day and week. Let's get inspired. Let's just be more motivated, because when we start negative in a way, the whole week, the whole day may stay negative. But if we stay positive, hey, then we have an even better day and week, even if it's raining outside like today here for us. Okay, guys, now just quickly, if you're looking for more inspiration beyond our WeChat groups, we have a nice book or ebook with daily little quotes, bilingual in English and Chinese. We have exercises for your goal setting, etc., etc. And if you love what we're doing, because most of us, we are volunteers, you can also donate. We just 50% goes to MMM, 50% goes to the 1 Million Tree Project. And actually, we've just donated 100 trees to the 1 Million Tree Project. And we have been doing this for more than 2 years now. So thanks to your contribution as well. And this is our amazing lineup for this month. So we have Mondays, English speaking webinars, okay, at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. But on Wednesdays, we basically have, I'm just going to mute you all. On Wednesdays, we have Chinese speaking webinars. So yeah, you can start well in a new day and week. Enough talking from myself now. The next 20 minutes are for Rae. And after this, you can ask her any kind of questions, or even in between, use the chat group, unmute yourself as you like. Okay, Rae, the stage is yours. Thanks for being with us.
You. All right, good morning, everybody. So like she said, my name is Rae. Just to let you know, my pronouns are she, her. So I want to start off by talking about my story a little bit. I feel like the best way to kind of communicate this idea of accepting your identity and what that can mean is just by allowing you to get to know me a little bit. And so I want to just briefly go through my story. Hopefully I don't make anyone cry this time. I tried to condense it a little bit so it's not too emotional this time. But I really hope to highlight some issues that I've kind of found to be essential and maybe kind of often misunderstood. So for many of you, I might be the first transgender person that you've encountered. It's something I believe that many people within the LGBTQ community are always aware of, that we are always the first encounter for someone. And today, in many ways, I represent not only myself, but others within the trans community. Your view of transness is going to, in some way, be shaped by the sound of my voice, my appearance, my mannerisms, and even my attitude toward you. And so growing up, I had no idea what being transgender meant. It's not a word that I even heard until sometime in high school. I grew up in a small conservative town in Kentucky. And so when many think of Kentucky, they immediately think of KFC. But for me, Kentucky was much more than a little bit of fried chicken. It was church and sports and farmland. This was basically how and where I grew up in a lot of ways. My family and friends, they valued church. They held traditional beliefs on political issues, and homophobia was a commonly held trait. Derogatory slurs were kind of thrown around to belittle or humiliate others, and this type of language could be heard amongst even the best of us within the community. I knew from a young age that I was transgender. I knew that my mind and my body didn't quite match, but I didn't have the language for it. And more importantly, I didn't have anyone around that could teach me or that could talk to me about this. And so I internalized a lot of it and I denied it, and I thought that I could pray it away, and I doubled down on my masculinity. And for many in my situation at a young age, suicide is a constant thought, and it's kind of seen as an escape. I had a lot of those thoughts and feelings. And so my first experience with seeing a trans person was this. Uh, this was my introduction to what it meant to be transgender, to be made a mockery of, to be belittled, to be shamed and outed and humiliated, or to be made a villain. And I couldn't be this. So growing up, I never felt safe talking about this topic. And it felt like a taboo subject that could cause ridicule by my peers or judgment from my family or the other adults in my life, or worse yet, it could cause suspicion. Because when this is your view of what being trans is, and you have nothing else to help counterbalance it, you're terrified of it. You're the thoughts are immediately of shame and of just embarrassment, or like I said, to be made a villain, to be made essentially a monster. And so I found ways to cope. And it's, as I said, I doubled down on my masculinity. The people I dated, I played sports, I went to church, and I studied the Bible very fervently, believing that this was a phase and that this would go away. That if I was born a man, then I was going to be as manly as possible. And this was just a way to cope and to hide. I thought, if I'm hyper masculine, then no one will suspect this about me. And so hiding from others meant honestly hiding from myself. And when that stopped working, I decided to invest my time more fully with the church. I studied ministry at a Christian university, and I set out to be a youth pastor. And to be honest, I love working with kids. The church was a place I never really felt safe and that I hated going to when I was growing up. And I also knew that this wasn't the intention of it. So I thought I could potentially make this space actually be safe for kids, where they could talk about their problems of their shame or their guilt without fear. That this place that for me, I was terrified to go to, I wanted to create a sense of safety for others. But to be honest, this was an illusion that I kind of accepted for myself. I lived for I tried to live in it for as long as I possibly could. I believed that this would be a secret that I would take to my grave, that I would live my life kind of half lived. And I really believed for a long time that I was okay with that. I had no one to talk to, and the constant thoughts and feelings just continue to come back that it just wasn't safe or okay to talk about. And so none of this worked, and doubling down on my masculinity led to depression and trying to be something I'm not in the church. It furthered my issues of not having an identity. I didn't believe what I was saying. So how could I help others when I didn't believe it for myself? And I was in a constant state of lying to myself. So fast forward a little bit. I've lived here in Shanghai for 5 years now. And I moved here accepting a job. And coincidentally, I had a lot of friends that were working for the same school. I had an amazing 2 years at this job. My friendships grew, and in many ways, I honestly felt happy. I was content. I don't think I was ever whole, but I was content. And then, as happens, the school I was at was a young startup, and it began to really start to struggle. And the writing was kind of on the wall for this place. My boss knew it, my friends knew it, and just like that, everyone just kind of left. They moved back to their hometowns, and so I decided to take a new job. I wanted to stay here in Shanghai, and I felt like in many ways I was starting over. This was honestly like one of the most painful experiences of my adult life. It was over these 2 years, my first 2 years in Shanghai, I had really built a sense of community and family. The friends I had made were some of the closest I'd ever felt. And I was, like I said, I was happy. Um, but after they left, I realized that I no longer needed to perform, that this was the first time in my life that there really wasn't anyone left around for me to perform or act this part for, and I could just be myself. And so this began the slow process of my journey that I've kind of been on the past couple of years of seeking help. And I really didn't know where to begin. And it felt impossible. I had no idea who to talk to or where to go. And through the friends I've made and the people that I've met here, I've somehow kind of allowed myself to slowly find a way. So I'm 31 and I'm finally becoming me. And I came out to my therapist in March of 2020, and I finally began medically transitioning a few months after that. After nearly a year of transitioning, I took what felt like an impossible step at the time and went into this abyss of just impossibility and fear. And I told my mom, and I was terrified about how that would go. I never imagined that it would go as well as it did, though. I didn't realize how much her acceptance of me, how much I was holding on to that, and how much I needed it. I really believed in my head that I could go through life being completely okay with not having acceptance from really anybody. And so then to receive this from my mom was really powerful for me. And I'm grateful to continue to have that relationship and to continue to build relationships in the community here in Shanghai as well. And so I finally got to start being myself. I've entered into this amazing community of LGBTQ people here in Shanghai that have embraced me and accepted me, where I've really honestly begun to thrive. I've got to host galas, I've got to perform, I've got to do public speaking engagements. And these are all things that I never would have imagined that I'd get to do. And I'm getting to do them fully as myself. And so I have a couple takeaways that I've kind of begun to uncover over these past couple of years that have to do with acceptance and identity. And I kind of hope they can help you as well. My goal today is to allow you to understand this trans narrative of mine, but understand that it's not as complicated or out of reach or different from even your own experiences. Sorry, my cat is just making a lot of noise. I'm gonna, yeah. So here's a couple of takeaways that I've kind of begun to uncover. The first is, without acceptance of your identity, you're holding yourself back. I think that it's safe to say that we all have passions, we all have purposes in life. We all have something that kind of gets us up in the morning and it pushes us to be better or pushes us to improve. But if you haven't taken the time to know and understand your identity, then are you living out your passions, or are you living in a state of constant expectation that's been placed on you by others? After taking the time to learn more about myself, I began to realize that the rhythm of my life and the work I was doing was a result of living a cycle of expectation. From a young age, we're given a very heavy weight, like a burden really, that's been placed on us by others. And so this might be by family, by friends, by colleagues, teachers, coaches, just people in your life that just continue to put an expectation for what you should be or what you should be doing onto you. And this can even be created by the community that we live in or the culture that we grow up in. And at some point through, really this mess, we kind of begin to lose sight of our own passions and our own purposes. And we begin fully living into what others expect from us. We become terrified of letting down others in our life, and it's become so ingrained into us. We are scared that we're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or upset, these people who have invested so much time into our lives. And so for me, it became so ingrained that it felt impossible to separate my passions from the ones placed on me by others. I didn't know where my identity began and where the identity I created to perform for others really ended. It was like taking a pile of endless knots, and it just felt impossible to untangle. I couldn't even answer like simple questions about myself. Did I really like American football? Or had I just told myself that I did for so long to be one of the guys that it just kind of became part of me? And so it's really kind of scary whenever you're struggling with even basic questions that you ask yourself. It becomes really scary to not know those answers. But what I realized is that I was holding myself back because I was fully living into these expectations for others. I didn't want to let others down, whether it was because of shame or guilt or embarrassment, or even these feelings of responsibility. I couldn't let go of this sense of responsibility that I had to others in my life. And so I want to pose a question. You can feel free to answer verbally. You can unmute yourself, or you can add your answer to the chat if you want. We'll just take like a minute for anyone that might be interested. But my question is, how has the expectations of others shaped your life?
I can start if you like. I think
Sure.
my mom's expectation was like safety, security comes first. So you work in a corporate job. When I did my studies in Germany, I would work and study at the same time instead of just studying, because I need to earn money at the same time. So, and yeah, when I decided to quit my job to open my own company abroad in China, that was like crazy, right? There was not really much support there. What about the others? You can also use the chat group if you want to share.
Okay. Hello. All right. So, well, first of all, it's really amazing to meet you. I've had similar, not in a way, I've met similar people. My best friend in university, she was gay, and we both came, or she still is gay, and she came also from a small town in South Africa, and I'm also from a small town. And just seeing her struggle through university, and sitting nights over and listening to her stories, and it's it's really eye-opening if you grow up in a close community and stuff like that. So this is really inspirational, and this is really brave, and this is just really amazing. As for me, I grew up in a small town, for the same reasons. Everything is expected, having safe and secure job, living close by and stuff like that. And still, my parents have that expectation of me. They still pressure me to go back home, to get a stable job that side and stuff like that. So yeah, no, the expectations of other people is a constant influence on a daily basis. I think that's why people say it's so important to surround yourself with people that inspire you and people that motivate you, understand, towards your dreams. Obviously, your family. Growing up, I grew up as family comes first, and they play a really big role in my decisions. But at the end of the day, it's your decision and it's your dream. You're not neglecting them. They are part of your process now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yes, it's really great meeting people like who can just speak from their heart, and you're not afraid. I'm still getting over all my fears. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and then Chelsea said in the chat, good grades, good job, good husband, good kids, typical expectations. And then Yolanda being responsible for everything. Yeah, it's kind of funny how those responsibilities, that expectation we have just kind of compounds on itself, right? One expectation leads to another, which leads to another, and it just kind of continues like a rapid snowball. So, my next point that I want to talk about is rejecting your identity is a rejection of your future. as I said earlier, I did everything I could to be as masculine as possible. I played sports, I watched them with friends, and I did everything I could to just kind of be one of the guys. By doing this, I was hiding so much of myself out of embarrassment or fear of being seen as anything other than manly. I just continued to hide. I didn't talk about my love of poetry in writing. It felt too feminine. And it felt as though if I let on that I enjoy this, then I'll be seen as weird. And where I'm from growing up in a small town in Kentucky, the word artsy is basically just another word for queer. So I let go of those interests in theater and poetry and in writing. I let go of my interest in performing and in dance. And I decided to pursue routes that were seen as more masculine. I hid behind this wall of machismo, and in doing so, I honestly became a toxic shell of a person. I closed myself off to people and only let them see really what I wanted them to, and I twisted myself into this false bravado that kind of kept everyone at a distance. And so, without acceptance of my identity, it was impossible to really discover or accept anything in my life that could, quite honestly, actually give me joy. And I think what's frustrating is that I lived so long in this. It's like I'm 31 and I feel like I'm just now discovering and understanding who I am. I didn't just wake up yesterday and realize that I liked writing or that I liked dance or performing. It took time to kind of uncover those truths of myself again. They were buried so deeply that I no longer really knew that they were there. It felt like I was dusting off an old book that I had read as a child and kind of forgotten about. And as you start to read that book again, as you open it up, you begin to have these faint memories of joy that are kind of slowly trickling back into your thoughts. And only through accepting myself was I able to begin the journey of relearning these truths of my life. It took the acceptance of my identity to begin to actually uncover those truths within my life. And so I have one final question for us that I want to pose is, what are the passions that you have in your life that maybe you've suppressed? And again, if you want to say something in the chat, you can, or you're welcome to speak here. We'll just take about a minute for anyone that would be interested in responding.
We also still have a very nice sharing from Claudia from the earlier question in the chat.
Oh, sorry. I feel a lot of pressure from my around about to do big things, big business. Last year, I asked to myself what I really want, and I found a lot of things is not passion. I lost on the way to fill the expectations, also pressure of my age and to get married and to have a standard life. But maybe being here in China, the city where I live, most people move. Yeah, that's really difficult. Thank you for liking my quote about expectations. I appreciate that. Traveling, Yolanda, traveling, painting, and play. That's great. So I want to end by just letting you know my identity isn't that I'm a trans woman. That's only a part of it. It's no more so than being cisgender as part of your identity. I don't go around and introduce myself by saying, hi, I'm Rae, I'm transgender. My identity is mine and it's mine alone. And after so many years, I finally began to reclaim it. And now I have the privilege and pleasure of authentically living as myself. It's free of shame, it's free of guilt, and it's free of the expectations of others. And so I want to thank you all for your time today. I'm really honored. I really am honored to get to talk and share with all of you here. If you're interested in my story, you can follow me on Instagram. You're more than welcome to reach out to me to continue this conversation. I hope that this helped you in some way kind of begin to understand and accept your own identity as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
So if anyone, I think this is kind of the time, if anyone wants to ask questions, you're more than welcome to. Just kind of an open Q&A time for anyone interested. Thank you. Thank you for all the comments. They're really kind.
Good morning, Rae. And
Hi, good morning.
Janine. It's Michel.
Yeah.
Speaking. I'm very happy, I would say, to hear you again, your story, because we were, I would say, on the same journey last year with the Shanghai Proud Stories. And I'm very happy and proud, I would say, of where you are today. I would say, we can say, half year later. And I only have, I would say, one question, because okay, you share a lot about identity, and I just want to know, I would say, simple questions for you. What will be your next expectation or challenges for the coming year? Where do you is it how to say? Is it easy to live, I would say, in Shanghai or in China, being a transgender?
Yeah, I think so. It's a couple different questions you kind of asked. One is kind of what I want to do over this next year. And it's really just kind of, now that I've kind of begun to just rediscover my passions, it's really taking time to lean into those and learn more about them and really build them up as real skills for myself. Like I said, I love writing and performing. And I really want to invest more time with those skills. And then also living here in Shanghai as a trans woman, honestly, like outside of the job part, because I recently came out at work, but I'm still not presenting in my workplace. Which is kind of really difficult, to be honest. So the professional side of it and working, I'm working on trying to find a new job over this next semester, hopefully for after this next semester ends, finding something new to start in the summer. But I do want to stay here in Shanghai. And the reason for it is, quite honestly, outside of the work aspect of it, it's been really easy living here so far. You know, other parts of the world, the laws are a little different. And, you know, to kind of talk about trans, you know, issues a little bit, other parts of the world, trans people face assault and, you know, very heavy verbal abuse and even murder a lot of times. And so it can be really scary in other parts of the world. And here, I really don't live in that fear. You know, the worst that kind of happens occasionally is getting like a weird look from someone. But for the most part, I've found really good community. And, you know, as I've accepted myself, I realized people just have really accepted me as well. So living here in Shanghai has honestly been a really good experience. I can't relate it to living anywhere else as a trans person yet, really. But so far, I've been really happy being here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rae.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, it's a great question.
Again, I would say I'm very amazing of your journey, and for sure, I would say I expect all the best for the coming Tiger Year for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so actually, thanks to indirectly Michelle, I met you, Rae. when I saw you at an event, right? Thanks again for this amazing speech. Guys, if you have more questions, now is the chance. I would like to ask you again, because this was a really good question we had at 7 a.m. Some of the people here in the call are also parents, and we're all adults, right? So what would be your advice again for us parents, future parents, us adults, how to interact with other people, or maybe our children who may go through similar challenges?
Yeah. I loved this question in the first meeting. And I think that one of the things we really have to take away is that vocabulary matters. The words we use really matter. For me, I realized I was trans at a really young age. It was kind of something as simple as telling my parents I wanted a Sailor Moon lunchbox, and them saying, "No, sweetie, that's for girls," something like that. And then through that, my entire world at 5 years old immediately became gendered, where this was for boys and this was for girls. And it almost felt like this sense of shame that I had, that that this was for girls. It was like really embarrassing and wrong that I wanted something that was for girls. And so I think we really have to pay attention to the way we talk to kids, or even just to each other, even at older ages, the way we kind of shame people for liking feminine things or liking masculine things. And so we really just have to continue to be aware of the type of language we use around people. And I think that's really where it starts.
Very good tips.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Oh yeah, David is asking, what's your biggest challenge?
I think biggest challenge right now is just I really want to find a new job for the next year, for this year, after the semester ends. And I think that's the biggest challenge is, friends and socially transitioning us, quite honestly, it's been challenging, but easy at the same time. But professionally, it's really kind of been difficult to find work, I guess. Just, like I'll disclose that I'm trans, and then that kind of ends the conversation in interviews sometimes. And so I think that's probably the biggest challenge, to be honest, is working on my professional life and building almost feels like starting over a career.
Well, I think that's a really good shout out to the community. If you know somebody who's looking for a talented educator like Rae, make sure you connect with her, right?
Yes.
Maybe some of your friends may need someone's help like Rae. I see we have more questions here. Do you think starting your own business with your experience?
I've thought about starting my own business. I feel like that's next year's thing. If it was to happen, like I feel like this year is going to be growing those skills that I've discovered my passion in, and learning ways to kind of more implement those into my professional life in more realistic ways. And then hopefully maybe building a business out of that is definitely something that's been on my mind.
And we have another question. With your experience, do you think the age to accept or talk to your son matters? For example, my friend has a son, 12 years old. He told her he feels different, but at this age, my friend doesn't have the experience how to talk to him, or if it's the right age.
That's a really good question. I think this age is honestly completely okay to begin talking about it, because we have to understand there's a difference between talking about gender identity and acting on it and then medically transitioning. These are all very different steps, but if your son is what can be really scary for a lot of trans people is just going through puberty. I would give anything to take away this voice that I have. I hate how deep and masculine it is, and honestly at times it makes me cringe to kind of hear it. So at this age, I think it's completely okay to begin having these conversations about gender identity. even though it can feel scary, all it's doing is allowing this child to have a safe place where they can open up and actually begin talking about it. It's like I said, talking about it and acting on it are completely different things. But to give your child a safe place where they know they can actually have this conversation and talk about and explore it is going to just completely change their world. And it's going to do nothing but give them a sense of security and belonging within their family.
Thank you. Next questions. Wow, so many questions.
Yeah,
I love it. David is asking now, what kind of job you are looking for example, so that we can all help you find a job. Good question, David.
So most of my experience is in education. But like I said, I also have a passion for writing. I've gotten a lot of experience in writing, and I'm really hoping to find a way to kind of incorporate that experience a little more into a future career path. I've also been doing a lot of stage managing, like theater type work, and I've gotten really good at that. I think I've really enjoyed it. So something that involves either writing or education or something within theater would just be amazing. I would really love to do more with writing. I think that it would be a really good experience for me to actually get to pursue a career in that.
Yeah, and Chelsea was also saying it is not easy for Chinese parents to accept the fact their kid is doubting their gender issue.
Yes.
My colleague, she has a 17-year-old daughter, and that little girl openly claimed she doesn't like boys, but seen from her mother, it's more like an act of being cool.
Yeah. I saw from iPhone says, with your experience, that was a 12-year-old one. I thought I saw another one. Sorry. It's not easy for Chinese parents to accept the fact that their kid is doubting their gender issues. My colleague has a 17-year-old daughter. This is the one you read, right? I'm a little behind.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah. You have so many messages. Oh, okay.
I know,
last question. Did your depression go when you fully accepted yourself?
Yes. It's different now. Like, I mean, like I knew that coming out and accepting myself wasn't going to fix everything. I wasn't living in this sense of ignorance where if I come out as trans, all my problems are going to go away. If anything, I was creating bigger problems for my life. It's kind of blowing up the sense of security that I had with my family and with my job. And so it was really scary in a lot of those ways. But what it did do is it allowed me to actually face these struggles and these issues as myself. And so I think that there's at times a sense of depression, but it's a lot more manageable, and it's not like this overbearing, crippling issue that it was becoming. I'm nowhere near thinking about, suicide anymore or other really painful issues like that. And so, yeah, I haven't for a second regretted actually accepting my identity and beginning to live in that.
Okay, so I'm just going to share our lineup again for this month so that you can see what's coming up next. So next Monday, we have Terrence talking about the 8th habit. So remember, Mondays are English webinars, Wednesdays are Chinese webinars. So that's our lineup. And I can see, I think we have more questions. Oh yeah, David is asking, how many Christians have you been to? Are there any differences to you or you feel? Let's take this as a last question.
Sure. I mean, I've traveled a lot before transitioning. I've been to quite a few cities. But like if the question is more about my experience as a trans person in different cities, I really can't give an answer to that yet. I started transitioning in March of 2020. So, I was right in the middle of COVID. So I haven't had really the opportunity to get outside of Shanghai too much since then. So I like that question, and hopefully I can answer it once the borders open up a little more.
Okay, and last but not least, Yolanda is saying, you are so beautiful and I love your voice the way it is. for me personally, it fits this way. It's so authentic as it shows who you are. It shows your journey.
Thank you.
I think that's a really good closing here now. And I would like to say thank you very, very much for taking the time. I'm glad that after half a year, we finally were able to get you here on our webinars. Thank you everybody this morning for joining. I think you gave so much amazing feedback to Rae. Happy Monday. I hope I will see you again, and yeah, pay it forward. Tell other people what you learned, how you got inspired, motivated this morning. Share it with people to make this place an even better place. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much, Rae, and take care, everybody. See you next week.
Everyone. Thank you. Nice to meet all of you.
Rae is in all WeChat groups, so you can connect with her directly.
More than welcome to connect. Absolutely.
Or to get her a job.
Yes.
Bye, Claudia. Bye, Michelle, Lillian, Katie, Julia, Simon, Ning, Pav, Liu Guy, Zina, Stephen, Yolanda, Tina, Mac, and everybody else. No, take care. Ivy. Bye, everybody.